Hello, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurial creativity today. Because creativity is one of the most powerful things that we can actually do with our conscious mind, this is an incredibly powerful episode. You need to listen, you need to watch. So be sure to tune in, get a piece of paper out so you can take some notes and enjoy. So creativity, right? So basically the first episode was how to be an entrepreneur. That was before this, so be sure to check that one out. But basically now we're going to be talking about the main characteristics to become a successful entrepreneur. And these are the ones that I think of. It's creativity, productivity, and leadership. And we're really going to dive deep into all these different topics so that you can be absolutely your best entrepreneurial self. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to, take risks and do a lot of stuff that we talked about in the last episode. But now we're specifically going to be diving into creativity and using our imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. Very, very powerful. So basically, creativity and the ability to think creatively is more important than knowledge, says Einstein, one of the smartest people in the world. So if you're not too much smarter than Einstein, you might want to take a little nugget from there. All right. The key thing of creativity, the first part of it, is creating. So creating is creating something new, creating something fresh, something that wasn't necessarily there before. You saw it in your mind, you did the work, and you created something new. Creativity is connecting new and different things together in different ways, producing something new. Creativity is connecting new and different things together in a different combination and producing something new. The main thing that people have a hard time with creativity is, it's actually in the producing something new. We have a hard time with the new. Our monkey brain, the part of our head that evolved in this world is evolving very quickly, and we get stuck in these patterns. We're very habitually lazy. We want to take the easy road, and it's nothing against us. It's just how we're programmed. We want to burn as little calories as possible. We want to think as little as possible. And the idea of creating something new is frightening. It's not typical. And the hardest part about it, for most people to think creatively, to be creative, is you have to believe it before you see it. You have to go and create the belief, and you have to generate it yourself. You must believe it before you see it. Most people have this idea in their head. They're like, well, once I see it, I'll believe it. And that's not what creativity is. Creativity is so much deeper than just art and, business and things like that. Creativity is literally creating the life that you want to live, creating your own reality. You must believe it before you see it. That's how you're going to construct a chair out of a bunch of wood. That's how you're going to make a business out of a bunch of ideas and systems and processes. It's how all things in the universe work. It's very wild. If you want to be truly creative, though, you have to find different ways to create new and different things, and as well as connect new and different things. That's the overall idea of what creativity is. Now, if you truly want to become creative, you have to escape the fixed mindset and step into a growth mindset. The fixed mindset says that the world is a certain way and it cannot be changed. The growth mindset says the world can be changed and I can make a difference. Or I can make a difference in my world. I can change things in my world. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is what they say it is. Most people I don't know if most people have a fixed mindset. I feel as if most people have a fixed mindset. They have no idea that they can make a huge difference in their lives at any moment in their lives. Whereas to be an entrepreneur and to have a creative mindset, you have to have this growth mindset. And this is the biggest thing I want you to think about when it comes to business. Some people have probably tried a side hustle. Some people have maybe tried to start a little business and failed. Maybe people have gone all out and done as many crazy things as I have. And the thing that people get stuck on is they try something for a little while and then they think they get stuck. So they have a little burst of growth mindset and then they try things and then they convince themselves that it's fixed, that the world is just stuck, as opposed to consistently having that growth mindset inside their mind that says, okay, it's not stuck. We just need to work and grow past this. To even get kind of weirder, it's like we have all these video games, right, where you can get to the next level and the next level and the next level. And if you work really hard and you get enough experience points, you'll level up. But a lot of people in their lives, they get to a hard level and they give up. They park their car. And if you want to get to the next level, it's just like anything in life. It's just like video games. It's just a law of nature that if you consistently work to get to that next level, if you gain experience points, sorry to use the video game metaphor, but it's pretty perfect for this, you will get to that next level. But most people quit. Most people, maybe when they're young, they have a growth mindset. Most people even think that they have a growth mindset, and yet they park their car and they don't believe in themselves enough to get to the next level. Or they get lazy, or they have excuses, is what I'm trying to get at. You don't want to have excuses. You want to always be thinking, okay, how can I get to the next level? How can I open my mind? When your business gets stuck, you don't quit, you don't shut it down. You figure out how to get around this situation and you grow it to the next level. If your marketing isn't working, you need to experiment more. You need to get more creative. Part of creativity is about creating your own reality. But you do have to check in every now and then with reality. This is the balance. And just like many things in life, if you're too lost in La La Land, I've been here, where you're just creating, and you're not actually connecting it with reality, then you're just going to be off creating something that is not connected to anything. It's not in an area. It's not rhyming with life. You're just creating your own imaginary world, basically, where you think everything is going to work out, and you're not actually communicating with like your customers. You're not actually finding problems and solving it. You're just building something that you created. So you have to have this balance of insane growth and creativity, as well as checking in with reality every now and then. Checking in to make sure that what you're creating is necessary. Creating that's going to have the biggest impact. And if you're talking about business, this mostly comes down to talking to more of your customers and figuring it out. I talked about this in the last episode, but the things you have to balance as an entrepreneur, to balance the needs of your customers, you have to balance the needs of your business, and you have to balance the needs of yourself. These are very, very big. But when we're creating our own reality with creativity, with an entrepreneur mindset and a growth mindset, we have to make sure that we check in with reality and we validate our ideas. That's what I'm trying to get at. Be very creative, but you also have to validate your ideas like a scientist in the real world. This is not a fantasy game. Stuff I'm saying is very real. Validation, so you have to test your ideas in the world. You have to be extremely creative and still check in with reality, validate your ideas, and test your ideas in the real world to be truly successful and truly creative. The interesting part about this whole creativity dynamic is that it's actually fairly new. It started with the Greeks, with Stoicism. That wasn't that long ago. And the Greeks were the first ones that really came up with this concept of think for yourself. Think for yourself. And thinking for ourselves is not what we want to do. Like I was saying before, we like to get into these habitual patterns and get stuck in these loops, and that's all we do for all of our lives. And just like to make it come home, it's like look at your dogs. Look at your pets. Ask yourself, do they really think very much? Do they think for themselves very much? I think that dogs try and think as little as possible. If you tell them to sit, they'll sit because you're telling them what to do. They like that. They like to go on walks and just kind of be in the moment, right? But they don't think. So as a human being, this new concept of being able to think for yourselves and be truly creative is a masterpiece. If you've ever seen the movie 300 or read the book, it's all about how India was coming into Europe and they had this great war. And if India would have won, they probably would have enslaved the whole country, and we wouldn't have had this great mental breakthrough of being able to think for yourselves. It really just makes that war and that whole thing even more powerful and cool to think about. But really having this idea from the Greeks' philosophy of think for yourself, don't think like everyone else does, and come up with your own ideas is a revolutionary concept that really hasn't been around that long. So it's okay if you're not the most creative person or if you don't think for yourself all the time, but it's hard is what I'm trying to get at. And this is why most of society is struggling to think for themselves, to think outside of the box, to do creative things. But it's just like anything in life. If you work on it, if you have a muscle, if you can learn as much as you possibly can and make your own decisions, you're going to be more creative and you're going to get further along in life. So when you're doing creative things, you are actually doing something new. And humans don't like doing new things. That's what I'm trying to get at. So when you feel that creative urge, there's always going to be this big mess. And then at the end, it's going to come out beautiful, but you can't quit until you get to that final product. Creativity is an art. It's new, and we are scared of new things. So it's natural. So what I'm trying to get is it's very natural for you to feel fear and uncomfortability when you're starting a new creative project, when you're starting a new business, when you're creating a new marketing campaign. It is good and it is natural for you to understand that this is new. It is uncomfortable. If you're starting a new job, if you're starting a new skill, it is new. You have to start where you start, and you have to just accept that that is part of it. Put the ego aside, be creative, get weird. Now I want to talk about something really cool. So I've been studying creativity for a long time. I should probably write, I wrote most of a book. I need to finish it. But when I was studying my creativity, I really found this incredible way to think about it, that there are two different types of creativity. Okay, there's proactive creativity, and then there's reactive creativity. So reactive creativity is solving problems and figuring things out as they come. This is a big problem with most of business and society today, is we have a very reactive way of solving problems. Now, there are people who are amazing at reactively being creative and solving problems. More interesting creativity is the proactive creativity. This is the person who sets time aside to proactively be creative, not just reactively creative. I do this every Saturday. I've made this a goal of mine, unless I have some big projects or something stupid. But almost every Saturday, I just take the time to be creative, to think creatively. And it honestly is usually just me sitting around and people thinking I'm weird with a pen and paper, just writing ideas, coming up with new ways to connect things, new ways to create things, new ideas, new concepts. And I try and do this proactively every Saturday. But this idea of being proactively creative is something that I love, because creativity is the highest faculty, I believe, of our conscious mind. The ability to zoom out, the ability to zoom in, the ability to think upstream and downstream. We're going to talk about that later in the episode. But this idea of being able to just be creative and come up with new, fresh ideas is very powerful. And if you just act on some of the ideas that you get, that you feel the most energy towards, the most kid-like energy that will bring you the most joy and will make you the most successful, that can change your life anytime. I don't care where you're at. If you're at absolute rock bottom or even below rock bottom, you can start creatively thinking of new ways to get out. If you're at the top, you can start to creatively think about what's going to make me fall back down, or what's going to take me to that even next level and break through your glass ceiling. This is incredibly powerful to be a proactive person in your creativity. This is how you're going to come up with great marketing campaigns. This is how you're going to come up with great business plans. This is how you're going to get ahead of your competition. Creativity is the last legal advantage that we have in this world on our competition. Now I want to talk about creativity and success. The path to success is usually not obvious, and it is typically counterintuitive. Let me say that again. The path to success is usually not obvious and typically counterintuitive. If you have a wheat in your pocket, what is the natural human instinct to do? It would be to eat it. If you're hungry, you eat it. The counterintuitive way, and the way to be successful, is you're going to take that out of your pocket, you're going to plant it in the ground, you're going to water it for months and months and months and take care of it, and then it's going to blossom, and that will be success. It's counterintuitive when somebody, is mad at you, to apologize, to say that you understand them and hear what they're saying. It's counterintuitive to be an entrepreneur. That's what I'm trying to get at. But the path to success is usually, it's not obvious. It's not typically, and it's counterintuitive. Doing things over and over and over, being in control of ourselves. And this is the part where most people fail, because in order to be truly creative, it requires sacrifice. To create something brilliant, it requires sacrifice. That's the part that most people don't like. That's the part that most people are not willing to do. That's the part that most people say, well, I can't be creative because I'm not willing to sacrifice what it needs to be to create something new, because it's too scary. It's too weird. It's too different. I like what I like, and I don't do anything different. People like that. It's ridiculous. But if you want to truly be creative, it requires sacrifice. And you have to think broad. All right, we're going to use the word meta. And I'm not talking about fucking Facebook and Mr. Zuckerberg. I'm talking about meta. The word meta means to be able to think on a higher level. And before we get into that, actually, I want to talk about this really interesting concept. There was a scientist doing research on animals in a zoo. And basically what would happen is when they're young, they would kind of be in the zoo. They would, have lots of energy. But then as they grow older, they would realize the constraints of their environment, and they would become kind of depressed and lethargic and lazy because they can't get in nature. They can't go out into the wild. And the scientist basically made a metaphor for us as human beings, where as opposed to us being in the zoo, we lock ourselves in our house and we trap ourselves in our own zoo every night. And then we wonder why we're lethargic and depressed. And we know that if we go out in nature, we eat the right kind of foods, that we feel better. And this disconnection from reality is something that keeps people from being creative, keeps people from getting out of their comfort zone. We trap ourselves in our zoo and we become lethargic and we eat shitty food. So it's just something to think about. If you keep doing the same things, that is the enemy of creativity. Familiarity is the enemy of creativity. Stagnation is the disease of our society right now. If you stay stagnant, you will die. All disease, all illness comes from stagnation. You have to get out there, try new things, even if it's weird, even if you don't like it. And this idea, though, of comparing a city to a zoo and our houses to our habitat that we trap ourselves in every night, personally makes me disgusting, but it's something that we need to talk about, we need to think about, and we need to break out of this routine if we truly want to be creative. To do familiar is the enemy of creativity. And now I want to talk about something even crazier. This is the order of existence. This is very powerful. In a physical world, if you have some atoms together, put those atoms together, then they become a molecule. You put those molecules together, then they become a cell. You put a bunch of cells together, then they make up some tissues. You put all those tissues together, they make up organs. You put all those organs together, you create a human being or an animal. Now, I know I probably lost you here. You like, well, I thought we were talking about business. This is the breakthrough that you need to truly understand how to be successful in business. This is the larger meta version of thinking on a higher level to create the business of your dreams and truly be successful. Now, in order of existence, if you damage the upper levels, right? If you damage an organ, like it's bad, but it's probably not gonna kill you. But if you damage something on a lower level, if you start messing up atoms, and the entire body will die. This is very profound. So the upper levels, if you mess with them, you're not gonna make a lot of a difference. But if you go down to the lower levels, and you get very microscopic with this, you can make massive impacts on things. Orders of existence aren't just in human tissues. It's like a book, okay? It's like you have the words become sentences. Sentence turn into paragraphs. Paragraphs turn into pages. Pages turn into chapters. Chapters turn into books. Once it becomes a book, you cannot say that book is just words. The book is its own thing. It's its own reality. It's its own creation. This whole idea is taking all the small things, and when you put them together, you create something more. It goes with human connections as well. If you just have two people working on a project, sure, it's double the power, but if you bring in a third person, you're tripling the power. You are creating synergy. You are building something bigger, and now it's something more than just two people. So if you're ever going to have a partnership, I recommend having 3 people involved. That way, there's always someone to bounce off ideas and talk about the other person when they're not around. But going meta is being able to see things and thinking on a higher level. And this is the most powerful part about being creative and using our consciousness for creativity. Thinking on a higher level. Being able to zoom out and look from a 1,000-foot view on your business, on the projects that you're building. You're going to be able to see the different orders of existence inside of a business, inside of a system. And this is called emergent. Okay, so if you put all the words together into sentences and then they become a book, that is called emergent properties. And it's amazing. When you put a lot of things together, they become something different than they were before. Another metaphor is like an ant colony. If you take one ant out into a field and you leave him there, he'll die. Okay? It's sad but true. If you take all the ants, the whole ant colony, all millions of them, you place them in the middle of nowhere, they will act as if they are one living organism, and they will be able to work on it. Something like 80% of all the living material in the rainforest is ants, which is crazy to think about. And they think and they move as one living organism. So if you take one little ant, that is an ant, but when you put them together, they are a colony of ants. And they live and breathe and they work together to keep the colony alive. And they become something different than just ants. They are a colony. Here's the most important, this is why this is important to success. This is what I'm trying to say. See, success is not a result, it is an emergent on a higher order. It's not a simple result because, so this is why it comes down to business. Because in order to truly be successful, you have to understand and be able to zoom out and look at it on a bigger picture. You have to see that it's not just one thing. It's not just one tiny part of your business that's going to be able to make your business be entirely successful. It is a collection of lots of things coming together to make a successful business. If you just make an amazing e-commerce website, but you never promote it, you'll never succeed. Whereas if you're promoting it, getting better packages, talking to customers, shipping and making it an experience, that's when it becomes a business. That's when it becomes real. Another important term is meta, which means thinking on a higher level, or zooming out, or being able to zoom in, or being able to see things from a higher perspective. We practice a skill that often allows us to see the world differently, and it allows us to be successful. So an example, like if you're making a software company, you're going to be able to zoom out and see it from a million-foot view and realize, okay, this is just a simple software that works in this ecosystem that helps businesses do this. Or you can zoom in really, really in depth and say this is specific programming line of code that's really next level that's going to make this whole business possible. So zooming out and being able to zoom in is incredibly powerful. And we're talking about this because here's why being able to think meta or at a higher level and emergence are so important to business. Success is not a cause and effect result. It is a emergent. It happens naturally when you put together a unique set of components. All right. So a lot of people think that success is just a simple result of cause and effect. Okay. But it's not. It's not a simple cause and effect result. It's an emergent on a higher order. In every area of life, health, relationships, or money, success is always an emergent. Most people try to do one thing and hope it causes success as an effect, but that's not how it works. Even becoming a successful entrepreneur isn't a cause and effect relationship. Entrepreneurship emerges when you put a certain skill and behavior in place, and we'll talk about more of that in this program. But it's like when you're trying to build a business, it's not just one thing that you do. It's a emergent of putting all these different systems and processes together that's truly going to be able to create an entrepreneurial business. Just like as for a business, for yourself, being able to think about the skills you need to learn to be a successful entrepreneur is going to take you to those different levels. So if you're just thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to learn many different things. And when you learn all these things and make yourself more valuable and you put them together, that's when you're going to finally reach success. If you truly want to be like a successful entrepreneur, you're going to have to learn how to do copywriting, web design, how to create a funnel, how to create an offer, how to get people's attention, how to create video content, how to write emails. And all these different skills, though, that you're going to learn over your lifetime, once you finally put them all together and you're going to have a successful emergent because you're going to put them all together and have them all work simultaneously to truly be successful. So this is just going to help you think bigger, be more creative, and understand that putting all these skills together is what's going to create success for you in your entrepreneurial journey. I still like the idea of being able to think upstream as well as downstream of your business. If you're going to think upstream, you're going to think, what's going to happen once they buy my product? How is their life going to transform? And then if you think downstream with your business, you're going to say, who are the people that are suffering that really need this sort of offer? What would it be like to think from their perspective? That's another big thing about creativity, is taking different perspectives of what people are going to see and think on your business. This is a really great proponent of being a great marketer. And as I talked about before in the show, there's 3 key things that you need to think about. You need to think about the needs of your customer, the needs of your business, and the needs of you. And it's also important to visualize and see through the perspective of your customer, see through the perspective of what people see when they see your business, and then once they're in your business, what it's like, and then also understand your perspective and also visualize what it's going to be like when you finally have your entrepreneurial success. But seeing things from a different perspective is a very key thing of creativity. Think about your business. Think about being either proactively creative or reactively creative. Start to think differently. Escape group thinking. Start to think for yourself and purposefully go out of your way to be a creative human being and to think for yourself and to come up with unique ideas and combine things in new and different ways. This is how you can truly be creative. And again, creativity is the last legal advantage that we have on our competition. Almost all of these cookie cutter businesses are only here for a moment. But if you can truly create something creative that can stand the test of time and put in the work and then not quit and help, ask me for help, I'll work with you, and make it happen, that's how you can truly have entrepreneurial success. All right, the next ones we're going to be talking about is entrepreneurial productivity and entrepreneurial leadership. I hope this is really helpful. If you guys leave me some comments, some likes, I'll make more content on creativity. I did a whole 20 episodes back in the day on it. I wrote a whole book. I'm a very inspired by creativity type of person. I feel like I'm one of the more creative people in the world. I hope I gave you some nuggets of enlightenment and that you take what you learned today and you implement them. All right, talk to you in the next one.